the signal that should never have been sent. The galaxy was vast, stitched together by countless civilizations that thrived in its hidden corners, their histories sprawling back tens of thousands of years. From the ancient bureaucracies of the Velith cartel to the brutal war tribes of the Vekrith clans, there was a universal truth carved into the memory of every alien power. Never involve the humans unless you are prepared for fire and ruin. And yet, someone had sent a signal. It began as a faint SOS beacon, carried across the void through a subspace relay meant only for emergencies. The message was desperate, encoded in panic, and punctuated with the universal distress frequency that demanded response from all listening vessels. At first, the Galactic Council thought little of it. Civilizations sent false alarms all the time. Pirates ambushed traders, colonies fell silent after storms, ships broke down on the fringes. The galaxy was not a gentle place, and its communications net was cluttered with cries for help. But then the origin of the signal was confirmed. Sector 9, F3. Human territory. The council chambers fell into silence that day, silence so heavy that even the more belligerent war races hesitated to speak. The beacon wasn't from the humans themselves. No, it had been sent about them. A small alliance of Outer Rim alien colonies, desperate and outmatched, had tried to subjugate a fringe human world, and now they were begging for help. It was a mistake. A colossal one. The human frontier. The planet in question was Orpheon 7, a cold, rocky world that humans had turned into a thriving fortress colony. For most races, it was uninhabitable, its nights far too brutal and its magnetic storms lethal to standard shielding. But to humans, the galaxy's whispered Deathworlders, it was merely a challenge. The settlers there had built massive underground cities, armored spaceports, and refineries that drank raw elements from the planet's crust. They didn't just survive Orpheon 7, they bent it to their will. It was here that the Zora-T Confederation, a minor alien power, made their mistake. They had assumed humanity's expansion into the frontier was fragile, perhaps even desperate. They believed humans were spread too thin, too weak to defend their holdings. So they struck, sending fleets to blockade Orpheon 7 and legions to break its defenses. For a time, they believed they had won. Until the survivors of the first alien fleet sent their SOS. The listening posts. The distress call first reached the edge of human space through listening post Kepri 12, a hidden relay station manned by less than a dozen human operators. The facility existed only for one purpose: monitor alien communications and detect threats long before they reached core colonies. Operator Daniel Reeves had been drinking his third mug of bitter synth coffee when the alert appeared on his screen. His console blinked with the harsh, shrieking tone of a universal distress code. At first, he thought little of it. Dozens of signals bled across the void each day, most of them ignorable background noise. But then his eyes locked onto the origin point. Orpheon 7. Human colony. Reeves froze. The distress code was alien, not human. And worse, it was encoded with pure terror. They're unstoppable. They're not soldiers, they're nightmares. We tried to break them, but they don't break. Please, anyone, save us before they. The message cut to static. Reeves didn't hesitate. He slammed the emergency relay and opened the redline channel directly to Fleet Command. "This is listening post Kepri 12, he said, his voice unsteady. "We have confirmation of hostile engagement near Orpheon 7. Aliens have attacked a human colony. They're asking the galaxy for help. Repeat, they are begging for help, against us." There was silence on the line. Then, only 2 words. "Send everything." Fleet mobilization. Within hours, the human military machine awoke. The United Terran Defense Fleet was not like the navies of other civilizations. While many alien powers built vast armadas to intimidate one another, humanity's fleets were forged from necessity. They came from Earth, the cradle of storms, predators, famine, and endless struggle. Their ships were not ornamental, they were weapons, honed by centuries of brutal history. And when Orpheon 7's distress was confirmed, the Deathworlder fleets mobilized. From Luna shipyards, destroyer squadrons launched into the void, their hulls gleaming black beneath the starlight. From Mars, the behemoth carriers, hulks of armored steel large enough to swallow entire alien cities, shifted into formation, their fighter bays roaring to life. From the outer colonies, scout wings and stealth frigates rose like a storm front. Everywhere, alarms thundered across human space. Civilians whispered rumors in underground markets. The aliens struck first. Now they'll pay. Commanders didn't wait for diplomacy. They didn't wait for council approval. Humanity's response was instinctive, automatic, wrathful. Because the one law every species in the galaxy knew was simple. You do not strike at humanity unless you wish to burn. Orpheon 7, Ground Zero. On the surface of Orpheon 7, the war had already begun. The alien Zorati legions had landed in massive waves, their troop carriers darkening the skies like mechanical locusts. They had expected resistance, of course. Perhaps a militia of poorly trained colonists, or maybe a handful of aging planetary defense turrets. They had brought shock troops and siege tanks to overwhelm quickly. But what they found was humanity. The colonists of Orpheon 7 weren't soldiers by trade, but they didn't need to be. Every human born on the frontier was hardened by fire and stone. They carried rifles that had been passed down through generations, weapons upgraded with scavenged alien tech and human ingenuity. They fought with knives, with mines, with traps laid across the frozen tundra. And when the alien troops pushed into the underground cities, expecting easy conquest, they found tunnels rigged with explosives, ambushes waiting around every corner, and civilians who fought with the ferocity of predators defending their den. For every human that fell, 10 aliens followed. The Zorati commanders grew desperate. Their invasion faltered. Their ships began to withdraw. And then came the message, the SOS that would doom them. The Council watches. Far from the chaos, in the polished chambers of the Galactic Council, the message had been received as well. Holograms flickered around the central chamber, depicting the raw feed of the distress call, alien voices screaming for aid against human resistance. The counselors murmured in horror. They struck a human colony? On the frontier. A tall insectoid delegate whispered. Are they mad? The Zorati have no understanding of what they've unleashed, another said, her voice trembling. An elder of the Crovathi syndicate hissed, his mandibles clattering. The humans will not stop. Not until the Zorati are nothing but ash. And indeed, already they could see the first signs, entire human fleets mobilizing across the void, thousands of warships turning their bows toward Orpheon 7. The Council could not intervene. None dared. Because no one wanted to stand between humanity and its prey. The first mobilization wave. On board the UTS Resolute, Admiral Cassandra Vale stood at the command bridge, her gaze fixed on the holographic map of the sector. Her hair was bound tight, her uniform immaculate, her presence radiating control. Around her, officers worked furiously, plotting fleet vectors and communications. Admiral, her tactical officer said, we've confirmed the alien SOS reached at least 12 major relay stations. Every power in the sector knows what happened. Good, Admiral Vale replied. Her voice was cold steel. Let them watch. Let them all see what happens when someone believes humanity is prey. Already, her fleet had begun to form up. 40 destroyers, 20 frigates, 6 cruisers, and 2 massive carriers, their hangars swarming with fighters. It was only the vanguard. More fleets were rising from Mars, Titan, and the colonies. Her orders were simple. Hold nothing back. Humanity's wrath awakens. News spread fast across the frontier. In drinking halls and underground bunkers, settlers told stories in hushed voices. Aliens had dared to strike, dared to laugh at humanity's strength. Now the Deathworlders were stirring, preparing their answer. For centuries, humanity had been mocked as reckless, primitive, too brutal for the refined galaxy. And yet, time after time, humans had proved what others feared to admit, that there was no greater predator among the stars. The Zorati had forgotten that truth. They would be reminded. As the first human fleets slipped into faster-than-light transit, streaking toward Orpheon, 7 like arrows loosed from a hunter's bow. The galaxy trembled. The alien SOS that had begun as a cry for help had become something else entirely. A death sentence. When wrath took the stars, the human fleets arrived like thunder breaking across the void. Orpheon 7's orbit had once been a quiet frontier trade lane, a place where mining freighters moved slowly between moons and outposts. Now it was a battlefield. Dozens of Zora-T warships still lingered, battered from their assault on the planet below, their blockades half broken by the ferocity of human colonists resisting from the ground. And then the horizon cracked open. From the folds of faster-than-light transit, the Deathworlder fleet emerged. First the scouts, their stealth signatures shimmering into reality. Then the destroyers, angular shadows cutting across the stars. Behind them came the carriers, vast and monstrous, their hulls lit by the glow of thousands of fighters ready to launch. At the heart of it all was the flagship, the USS Resolute, under Admiral Cassandra Vale. Its armored prow gleamed with earth-forged steel, its hull bristling with weapons designed not for intimidation but for annihilation. The Zora-T panicked. The enemy's last stand. On board the Zora-T flagship Sarthok, Commander Grezt's mandibles clicked in terror as the human fleet spread before him. This is impossible, he stammered. How did they mobilize so quickly? No one answered. His bridge crew were frozen, their scaled hands trembling over consoles. The humans had brought a fleet larger than anything the Zora-T could muster within months, let alone weeks. The aliens had expected resistance, yes. They had not expected wrath. Transmit a surrender code, Grezd hissed. Perhaps they will spare. But before the words finished leaving his mandibles, the humans moved. The first strike. Admiral Vale raised her hand. Execute Fire Plan Orion. Across the fleet, firing sequences aligned. Human destroyers lit the void with lances of plasma and railgun fire. Missiles streaked forward in synchronized arcs, their trails glowing like falling stars. Fighters screamed from their carriers in precise squadrons, weaving between alien ships with Predator-like coordination. The first Zora-T cruiser exploded before its shields even raised. The second fractured under concentrated railgun fire, its debris scattering across the dark. Within minutes, the blockade was collapsing. Orpheon 7. The Ground War. Below, on Orpheon 7's surface, human colonists were still locked in brutal combat with alien ground forces. Streets shook with explosions. Tunnels ran red with smoke and fire. The Zora-T had brought war beasts bred on jungle deathworlds, their claws tearing through steel walls, their roars echoing in the dark. But humanity met them with fury. Frontier militias, armed with scavenged rifles, turned choke points into killing fields. Families passed ammunition down the line as calmly as if preparing dinner. Traps hidden in the ice and stone detonated under alien tanks, flipping their hulks skyward. And when human reinforcements began dropping from orbit, steel pods slamming into the frozen tundra, the battle turned. The Deathworlder Marines emerged. Towering in armored exosuits, carrying weapons too heavy for most species to lift, they tore into Zora-T ranks like wolves among livestock. One Marine, Sergeant Alex Navarro, ripped the control node from a Zora-T warbeast and hurled it back into enemy lines, roaring over comms. This is our world. You don't get to walk away. The fleet's fury. In orbit, the Zora-T tried to rally. Desperate, they formed defensive walls of ships, pouring fire into advancing human formations. Alien energy lances cracked across the void, burning through several human frigates. For a moment, they even forced the vanguard to slow. But humanity did not slow for long. Bring the carriers forward, Admiral Vale ordered. From the hangars of the USS Resolute, a second wave of fighters launched, not ordinary craft, but the dreaded Black Talons, stealth fighters designed for assassination strikes. Their hulls shimmered as they slipped past Zora-T defenses, vanishing from sensors. Moments later, Zora-T capital ships began to die from within. Explosions erupted from their engines, from their cores, from the bridges where commanders stood. The Black Talons didn't fight fleets, they hunted them. One by one, the alien formation disintegrated. The broadcast. The galaxy was watching. Every major power, every council chamber, every intelligence relay, they had all intercepted the alien SOS. And now, through hidden channels, they were seeing what followed, humanity's wrath unleashed. Pirate cartels fell silent. Rival empires paused their disputes. Even the most arrogant warlords of the Vecrith clans held their breath. Because this was not just vengeance. It was a demonstration. The humans had turned one SOS into a galactic warning. We do not forgive. We do not retreat. We do not break. The fall of the Zora-T. By the end of the first day, the Zora-T fleet was shattered. Hundreds of wrecks drifted in orbit, their broken hulls glowing as oxygen vented into the void. Survivors ejected escape pods, but the humans ignored them. There would be time for prisoners later. On the ground, the alien legions attempted one final push against the human colonists. It failed spectacularly. Surrounded, cut off from orbit, and assaulted by Deathworlder Marines, the Zora-T army broke into chaos. Many tried to surrender. Others fled into the tunnels, only to be hunted down. When the dust settled, Orpheon 7 still stood. Scarred, yes. Burned, yes. But human. And the Zora-T Confederation? It no longer existed as a power. Wrath without end. On the bridge of the UTS Resolute, Admiral Vale stood in silence as her fleet reorganized. Reports streamed in of victory, of secured ground, of alien warships destroyed. Her officers waited, expecting orders to return home. But Admiral Vale had no such intention. "Transmit to Fleet Command," she said quietly. "Operation Retaliation begins immediately. The Zora-T dared strike at us. We will not stop at defense. We will burn their strongholds, their fleets, their colonies. Until there is no one left to send another signal." The order rippled through the fleet like fire through dry grass. Engines roared to life. Navigation charts filled with enemy targets. Humanity was not merely defending its frontier. It was going to war. The galaxy trembles. In the council chambers, panic spread. Some powers debated sending envoys to calm the humans. Others whispered of preparing their own defenses in case humanity's wrath spread beyond the Zora-T. But deep down, every delegate knew the truth. The humans weren't lashing out blindly. They were predators, yes, but calculated ones. They would punish those who struck at them, and then stop. Yet the message was clear to all: cross the Deathworlders, and extinction follows. The last words. Weeks later, as the Zora-T Confederation's homeworld burned beneath human bombardment, an intercepted transmission carried across subspace. The voice of a Zora-T survivor, weak, trembling, broken. "We thought them prey. We thought them fragile. But they are the storm. They are the nightmare. They are Deathworlders. And we were fools." The signal ended. And with it, the Zora-T as a civilization ended, too. Epilogue. Wrath remembered. On Orpheon 7, the colonists rebuilt. They carved new walls into the stone, raised new towers, and buried their dead with honor. Above their cities, banners flew, human banners, dark against the storm. And across the galaxy, whispers spread. The SOS had not saved the Zora-T. It had doomed them. It had lit the spark of humanity's wrath, and once that fire was unleashed, nothing in the stars could quench it. The lesson was clear, carved into the memory of every alien power for generations to come. Do not awaken the Deathworlders. For when you do, they will not stop until your name is ash.